Welcome to the Addison Books YouTube channel. My name is Jamaal Fridge, and I am the author of the Christian middle grade novel series, The Life and Times of Theodore Addison. And while my books are for kids, I also care about the people raising the kids, so this channel is a resource for you. I wanted to share with you all today a wonderful opportunity I got this past Sunday at church. My home church is Zion Faith Center Bible Church on the south side of Chicago. So, my pastor came to me one day and told me that he really liked the video that I made on the response to the nation's report card, and he wanted me to share that with the congregation. And so, this past Sunday, we also were hosting a Girl Scouts troop that often meets in our church. And I got a chance to share that message with them as well as their parents. And this was just a very rewarding experience. And so I wanted to share that with you all today. And you can also see, the back and forth that I had with the kids as well. And I just hope you enjoy the message and that you're taking something from it that you can use with your children, that you can use in your daily life. And I'm always open to, hearing your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions as well. And enjoy the video.
Thank you, thank you. So, good morning, everybody. It's good to see your faces again. And thank you all. It's always a pleasure to have the Girl Scouts and their families with us. And part of today's message is really tailored for you all. I wanted to take the time today to share a very simple and hopefully encouraging message with you today. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you, and your kids will be fine. And I can prove that with data. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jamaal Fridge. I taught English in China for 6 years, but before that I grew up here on the south side of Chicago, poor and fatherless. And now I work for a Nobel-winning economist at the University of Chicago. And Pastor, this ain't even my final form. I said that I wanted to prove to you that your children will be fine, but that's in stark contrast to the messages that we get today in the Black community since we got here. And this is messaging from people that we think would know things. We think that these are credible people. So about a month ago, do you remember this big stink being made about the nation, like the nation's report card? Does anybody remember that? I came today to tell you that that's nothing more than hype. A lot of the predictors of success are not measured in your children's grades. That comes as a surprise, I know. So I'm going to unpack this, and we're going to approach it from several angles. So we'll talk about the Nobel laureate economist, and we're also going to talk about a lesson from Christ himself, a lesson from Finland, and I'll throw in a few personal stories, mixed and matched in there. So when the nation's report card got released, there was alarm over the academic deficits of American children, Black children especially. For instance, we saw how many African American 8th graders were at or above proficiency levels in math. Broken down by cities, Chicago was 9% proficiency, Milwaukee 2%, Detroit 3%. The highest scoring city was Charlotte at 16% proficiency. But what if I told you we were having the wrong conversation to begin with? My bosses, that's Dr. James Heckman and Alison Baulos of the University of Chicago, they wrote an op-ed And full disclosure, though these are my bosses, that's not why I'm sharing this, but I'm sharing it because I agree with it. And I agree with it based on experience that I picked up when I was abroad. So I want to share with you something I want to share with you some excerpts from that message and add a few thoughts. So here's the quote. For decades, education policy has lurched from one test score panic to the next, diverting resources from what we know works. Let me pull out of here, because technology likes to mess with me sometimes. Diverting resources from what we know matters, building students' socio-emotional skills, fostering strong relationships with teachers and peers, and supporting enriched home environments that drive long-term success. Rather than obsessing over fluctuating scores, we should focus on unlocking the full potential of our students. So, just real quick, just getting past some of the terms that they're using. Socio-emotional skills refers to one's ability to recognize and regulate one's own emotions, as well as recognize the emotions of others. This is what helps form those strong relationships between teachers and peers. In regard to enriched home environments, the tone for all outside interactions is set at home, where hopefully the child feels emotionally secure enough to explore and build relationships with other members of the household, instead of having their relationships be dictated to them. So what that will look like is, I know I should, let's say I'm one of the, if I'm a kid and I've got an aunt that always has something negative to say about me, I know I should respect them, but do I have to pretend that I like them? Do I have to run and, do you have to push me to go and give them a hug like they mean something to me? That's what that's not a relationship, that's a captive audience. A bit further down, the op-ed states, research in economics and psychology shows that these tests fail to measure key traits like, these are going to be important, perseverance, motivation, and conscientiousness, qualities that strongly predict long-term success. Meanwhile, factors like ninth grade GPA and attendance may be better predictors of high school graduation rates than any standardized test. That last statement checks out. If you're at the school and you're putting in some work, you'll graduate. So I don't need a standardized test to tell me that. But I want to zero in on on the predictors of success: perseverance, motivation, and conscientiousness. First off, if you're prone to quitting, you're guaranteed to fail. That one makes sense. If you're raising your kids to push through, then you're on the right path. I think about our drummer here, who coaches basketball. So you have to teach your student, like your players, to persevere, to push through difficulties, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's why they'll succeed, because they learn perseverance.
Right.
Organized sports, organized activities, like the Girl Scouts, this is what's building that character. Perseverance makes it happen. This is one of the key predictors of success. Just move on. With difficulty, there's always this learning curve. So we can always expect that something will be difficult right out the gate. But when you get to that point where you say, oh, I understand it now, well, congratulations, you've got a long-term, like you've just picked up a lifelong skill. And so in my personal life, I kind of feel like the skills that I just picked up at this new job, it took several months to get good at it. And it was very difficult. But once I reached that level, it raised the floor for me. And so it's like I feel like I can fall no further than that floor. So I've got a marketable skill that I can take somewhere else. I'll be fine. And so that's perseverance. But motivation, that one is a tough one. So let me share a personal story that can illustrate this point. When I was a grade schooler, I was a lazy student. I maybe shared this with you all before. I was always fairly good at tests, but I had no patience for doing homework. I think I may have blocked it out of my brain. But I had a classmate that told, like, she swears that I actually told the teacher in class, I don't believe in homework. She quoted me on that. And it's probably true, since after school, I just wanted to go home, watch Arthur, play Mario, and there was no reward for getting the homework done. Parents, y'all think I'm messing y'all up. I promise you I'm not. But, so it's like, if I did the homework, it would always take me so long that, well, now that I'm finished, now it's bedtime. So now I get to go to bed, wake up, and start the whole process over again. No, thank you. So since I had no incentive to do my homework, other than to avoid punishment, I just didn't bother. And it showed when I got my report card. So, parents, I got a question for you. When those punishments came and mom took away my screen time, do you think that solved the problem? No. I hear all the experience now coming out. All right, well, how about this then? What if there are many punishments like this? Will that solve the problem? No. What if there are longer punishments? Not just 1 day, 2 days, not just 2 days a week, a month. Does it work? The girl's shaking their head, nope. So they free game, it does not work. Okay. But to be fair, what works for one child may not work for the other. So, yeah. Uh-huh. So I had this cycle of bad grades, punishment again. I even got held back a year. Whenever I play like 2 truths and a lie, that's the one I bring up because no one ever thinks like, you got held back a year? You repeated a grade? Yeah. So do you think that consequences like getting held back solved my problem? You're nodding your head like, yeah, no, it didn't. And it got even worse. So let's pretend that this side of the aisle, this is, like the classrooms and the lockers and stuff like that. So it's just a brick wall, right? And this side is the lunchroom, and this is the walkway that we have to enter in. So my classmates, the ones that continued on to the next year, they were all grouped in this lunchroom. And this lunchroom was the only way that that students, when they get off the bus, they could enter the school. So I had to walk past all of my former classmates every single day as I go to rejoin 5th grade. Do you think embarrassment solved my problem? I mean, y'all kind of know where this is going. So, yeah, no, it did not. It did not. Embarrassment did not solve the problem. Yeah, he's saying go around. He's saying come around. Yeah, it's fine. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. So I walk past them every day. People might point and laugh. They may scorn, but oh well. Then I get put in class with a teacher who is a former United States Marine. He was notorious. Everybody in the school was afraid of him. He carried around a yardstick, and he used it. If students were talking, like I think he went through like 4 yardsticks, just breaking them off on students' desks when they were talking. And he had a thunderous voice, quiet. And yeah, the students, like my classmates, were all intimidated. Do you think fear solved my problem? No. You say yes. So maybe that works for you. That didn't work for me. In fact, no, it specifically didn't, because I was thinking, oh, you think you're going to break me? Oh, okay. So I got punishments, like all kinds of punishments. I had to stand up at my desk all day turned into all week, and then eventually it just ran until the end of the year. I ended the year standing at my desk. I ate lunch standing at my desk. I wrote like he made me take these dictionaries and write these. If I didn't do the homework, that was my pattern. The next punishment was writing definitions from the dictionary. Normal students got 25 definitions for failure to complete the homework. I was so bad it got to 50, then it got to 100, then it got up to like 500, and then it's like I'm doing definitions instead of homework. Do you think this solved my problem? No! So, all these things, like people are trying everything. My mom got desperate. She even, went up to my pastor and, told him my situation. And the pastor talked to me. Bless you. And even then, even though I respected my pastor, that did not work. What did work?
Maybe one word.
Take your hand off your mouth. Yeah, talk.
My word is maybe like if you have like schedule when you can do your homework. Like you might have come up with like a schedule of like, okay, so this part of my homework I'm gonna do today, that part of my homework I'm gonna do tomorrow, and then you have like a whole like kind of like thing for it where it's like you have like a schedule for your homework. That might have worked.
It's me. Okay. After her, go for it.
So your parents might just sit next to you and watch you do your homework until you finish it, because that's what my gaga does to me all the time.
Okay. I like that. Go for it.
Nothing.
Nothing worked. Okay, so all right, go for it.
Already not nothing.
From what I heard, nothing at all. Nothing.
Something did work though, so I'm still go for it.
The way that your story is going so far, I don't think nothing worked for you. I'm gonna be really honest.
So like, so what I think, might have worked is like, I do this sometimes, where it's like, you take like a piece of paper. I don't know if you did this, but you take a piece of paper, you write down everything in like your homework that you have to do, right? And then you break it up into smaller, easier tasks that you can do like each day. Like if I get a homework packet, so I break it up into days. Like I'll do part of my reading today, that part of my reading tomorrow, this part of my math today, this part of my math tomorrow, and then I'll do my essay.
Essays are writing assignments, like long writing assignments. Yeah. Okay. I like these answers, guys. But my problem was motivation. It wasn't my method. So that's a very good method. Write down the homework, break it into smaller parts. My problem was motivation. So I get out of 5th grade, barely. as all the others. Then my mom comes to me and she tells me, Jamaal, if you do well in school, you're going to have a magical Christmas. So I went straight to the honor roll right after that. Honor roll, yeah. A's and B's. A's and B's. Congratulations. Huh? Yeah. Also, some of you all are straight A students, right? 2 B's and that's it? Okay. 2 B's. A, I will take, she was going to take whatever she could get. So, I get on the honor roll, and then Christmas rolls around. And and remember, this is back during my time, like back in 2000. So a Game Boy Advance, Pokemon Gold, Pokemon Silver. My aunts and uncles, they get me a Sega Dreamcast. Oh my gosh, my Christmas was magic. And so that's my mom sitting right there. Mom, would you wave for a minute? So this is my mom. Can we give her a round of applause for figuring it out? She figured it out. It took a long time to figure what is going to motivate my son to do well in school. Games. A lot of parents think that games are a waste of time. But for me, in some cases it is. But for me, this was incentive. This was something to get me going. I didn't have a reason of my own to want to do the homework. She gave me a reason to do it. And what did this also do? This wasn't just it wasn't just that my grades got better. This also solved my social and psychological poverty. So, what do you think I mean by social poverty? Go for it. You're right. Said I had no friends. Social poverty. Okay. What about psychological poverty? Go for it.
I think, no, never mind, because you had to say wouldn't make sense at all.
Okay, that's okay.
You were probably nowhere near social.
Nowhere near social. Okay. Well, it's different. Psychological poverty means that I didn't think highly of myself. Right? So, when I started having games that I could play with my classmates, that also helped me feel good about myself. So it was 2 birds, 1 stone. So, thanks, Mom. Now, let me tell you what did not change. Our family's financial situation did not change. I was still eating free lunch. Our family dynamics still had not changed. I still had relatives that I didn't quite get along with. But I had something to go with, and that's what made all the difference. So, of course, I got logged out. The computer went to sleep on me, but yeah, let me find where I'm at. So the takeaway as a parent is that you can feel free to use any tool at your disposal to help your child succeed. Anything is fair game. Also, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You don't need to move out to Naperville where they have apparently the best schools in the Chicagoland area or across the country. You don't need to do that. Perseverance, motivation, conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is having a sense of purpose, having your own reason for doing something. I did not get that until 7th grade. So it's not like it all comes together immediately. This thing you can build it as it flies. So then, if we bring this back to Jesus, if we bring it back to Jesus, this is the same way Jesus dealt with people. I've got a question for you. Why, and you don't really have to answer this, but just think about it. Why did people listen to Jesus in the first place? You don't have, we'll keep it. We'll keep it down. We'll just think about it. People didn't come to Jesus because they thought, oh, let me get an exposition of the Bible. They didn't come to him because they, really wanted to know the word better. They came to Jesus because he could heal them. I got a sick relative who needs to be healed. My daughter's sick and dying. Call Jesus. We're hungry. Call Jesus. People came to Jesus because he met a physical need for them. And then they stuck around for the word. So, parents, it's not like your kid has to want to be a great student. If you just give them a reason to be a good student, it'll catch on later. But sometimes I wonder about how God feels about it. Do you think God was ever disappointed when he said oh, these people only come to me because they need something? Now that I've fed them, they want to hear. Why don't they want the word just because? The word is freeing. This is good for people. Why don't they just take it? Nah, God does not communicate, oh, I'm disappointed in man because they don't want the word. He just says, all right, well, hey, here's what you do want, and I'll put something on top of it, and we can mix it all together, and then the people grow. So it's all fair game. So the last thing I wanted to share with you all was an excerpt from the rest of the article. It says this: consider literacy reform. Despite years of declining NAEP scores and efforts to boost them, real action came only after APM Reports Sold a Story podcast exposed flawed reading curricula and teaching strategies. The series gave literal voice to student and teacher experiences, galvanizing parents and lawmakers. Since the podcast aired, 25 states have passed phonics-based reading laws. But the lesson here isn't about banning one curriculum or mandating another. It's that we must think less rigidly and invest in how children learn, how to motivate them, and how to create positive classroom experiences for students and educators alike. So, when I taught English in China, one of the first things I always did with my students, I worked with kids as young as her with the blue sash. What's her name? Callie. Yeah, I worked with students as young as Callie to people as old as, mid-career, and in equal measures between all of them. And one of the things that I always did when I first started out, not long into the lesson, I would try to get a feel for why does the student want to study, and how best do they learn. So some of my students, some of my students, they were the types that always needed to play. They needed to move to think. Those are called kinesthetic learners. They have to move to think. Then we had the audible learners. They might learn better with songs and music. Then we have visual learners. They learn best with, like things they can see, right? So sometimes I would, like for some of the students, just to keep the lesson interesting, like pronunciation drills. I would take this marker and I would draw a circle around, like on the floor. And I would ask a student to step into the circle. And we put our hands together. And then we would sumo wrestle. We would try to push each other out of the circle. And if they were, like, I would ask them to repeat a word. And if they repeated it wrong, I would push them harder. And if they said it correctly, I'd let them push me until they said it enough times that they were able to push me out of the circle. This was how we got them to learn. This is how we kept them engaged, because the way that they were learning by rote memorization, that is the worst way to learn. So by giving them something they could do and play, that's how they picked it up. So this is something that that Finland understands really well. So Finland is, does anybody know where Finland is? Go for it. It's in Europe? Okay, where in Europe? North Europe. Okay, so that's the area of the continent I want to zero in on. North Europe, also known as Scandinavia. So this is Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. These 4 countries are noted for having really good governments, really strong social safety nets, really good education systems. They put a high degree of importance on equality. These are, like Finland in particular has the best schools every single year, and they've had it for a long time. How did they do it? They had shorter school days, shorter school years, homework was optional, and the homework that they did have was brief. Brief means short, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. That sounds nice, don't it? Right, I didn't want homework either. So, but they're the best students though. They got the best scores. So it's not like the schools were bad. So Finland, their style is studied. And everybody wants to be like Finland, except the way that Finland works culturally, like the culture does not match, so it's not an easy transfer. So in Scandinavia, yeah, equality is really important, but it is taboo. That means it is considered a bad thing if you consider yourself to be special. I like to be special, especially in a country that tells us that because we are black, that we are lower. So that doesn't necessarily, so that idea in Finland doesn't transfer easily to here. But what does transfer is the defiant overcomer. So the defiant overcomer is like this cultural picture that we have in the black community, where we look up to those people. We look up to those people who have overcome great odds and did it their way. That's kind of how we can model our schools. If they don't want us to be good at, like, when we came out of slavery, the first thing we did was build colleges and build schools because we wanted to learn how to read. So when the white people were telling us, you can't do well in school, you should not, you can't read, you should not learn how to read, we defied that. When, like even in sports, we defied the stereotypes there too. Now we are the face of sports. And so that's one cultural aspect that helps us. We can build our own education system, our own our own way. We can do this ourselves. And that's kind of why I say that you don't need to move out to Naperville. The Finnish model works well for them, and they focus on quality over quantity. But you know who also ranks highly? Singapore. Singapore is a city-state by the equator in Southeast Asia. They focus on quantity over quality. So what they do, the way they do it is different. The way Finland does it is different. The way Naperville does it is different. So what that means is we all have our own way we can do this, as long as we build in perseverance, motivation, conscientiousness. Then the scholastic results will come. Thank you all.